everyone! So I thought it was past time to do another episode of Cooking with Jenna. Yay! Today I thought we'd make some homemade granola because it goes really well with yogurt, which I think is kind of the perfect breakfast thing for summer. So to begin, the first thing that I like to put into my handy dandy bowl here are the oats. Now whenever you're doing this, make sure that you use old-fashioned oats because they bake better whenever it comes to actually putting the granola in the oven. I just happen to know this is about 2.5 cups. I love this container. It doesn't really matter what order you put all of these things in, so really you can do this however you want to. It just matters that it all gets in the bowl. Next, I like to go ahead and put in the coconut, since we're going to need about 1 cup of that. Make sure for the coconut that you get coconut flakes, because those are, again, going to bake better. You're going to need about 1 cup of those. Everything from here on out you're going to need in 1/2 cup measurements. So this little guy is really the only thing you're going to need from here on out, other than a handy dandy spoon and a pan and a saucepan. Okay, maybe this is going to get a little bit more complicated. First, I like to start with the sunflower seeds because they're pretty easy to measure out. Make sure that you get your sunflower seeds unsalted or this is going to get weird. That's handy. And then I like to put in the almonds. I've been getting slivered almonds recently, mostly because I tend to have to go grocery shopping at night and that's all that's left. But I do really like shaved almonds whenever it comes to this granola recipe really, really well. So you can always use those. And again, you're going to need 1/2 cup. 1/2 cup of walnuts, and these are actually already chopped so that all I have to do is pour them into my little measuring cup and then put them in, as opposed to having to manually chop them. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in the 1/2 cup of wheat germ. It really just adds more fiber to the granola, and you can always substitute wheat germ with chia seeds or flax seeds, but the consistency of wheat germ in the granola is really good. But the other two are really good options if you're trying to make it gluten-free. Although if you're trying to make it gluten-free, remember to use gluten-free oats because they often cut oats with flour. 1/2 cup. 1/2 cup of pecans, and I know this is a very big bag of them, but we go through pecans like crazy in my house. Again, if you get these pre-chopped, it's going to be a little bit easier for you. However, since I didn't get mine chopped, I've gone ahead and put the 1/2 cup in the top of this cute little thing that my great-grandmother gave me, and I'm going to go ahead and chop the pecans. And now I'm going to go ahead and put these into the granola. I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of hazelnuts to finish off the dry portion of this, and in the fall I actually do pumpkin seeds, but those you have to make sure you get unsalted as well. Now that the dry portion of the mixture is done, we're going to go ahead and put the oil and the honey together to where we can make sure all this stays sticky in the oven. And again, in 1/2 cup measurements, we're going to take oil, and I use sunflower oil, but vegetable oil would also be very good with this. And a 1/2 cup of honey. And we're going to let those mix together until just bubbling on the stove. It should only take a few minutes. While the oil and honey are mixing together, I like to go ahead and stir the dry ingredients together to kind of evenly disperse everything. Because the honey and oil are going to make this mixture super sticky, I do like to not only line the pan that I'm going to bake all the granola in with foil or parchment paper, but especially with foil, I also like to spray it with some kind of oil. You could easily also put a little bit of sunflower oil in the bottom and use a paper towel to make sure it's evenly coated, but this is always super quick too. And it looks like our honey and oil are finally mixing together, so it's time to turn the burner off and pour the mixture over top the dry mixture you had already put in the bowl earlier. Now you're going to stir this mixture again. You want to try to make sure all of the oil and honey is evenly distributed throughout the dry mixture. Now because this is actually a really small batch of granola, what you're going to do now is put the granola into the pan. You're going to try to evenly spread out the granola so that it will all bake evenly. Now that it's evenly spread in the pan, you're going to want to go ahead and slip it into the oven for 5 to 8 minutes, at which point you'll need to stir it and then repeat. My oven cooks really quickly, so I stick to the 5-minute mark, but most ovens will probably stick closer to the 8-minute mark. Now, while that actually bakes in the oven for the first 8 minutes, and I hope you set a timer, you can go ahead and get the dried fruit that you're going to put into the granola whenever it's completely cooled off. You can go ahead and get that ready. It's going to, again, be in half-cup measurements. I like to use dried blueberries and dried cranberries, and we use enough dried cranberries in my house that it has its own container. You can go ahead and put the dried fruit aside because even after the granola cooks, it's going to take a solid 20-30 minutes for it to cool down enough for you to break it into chunks and put the dried fruit in. It should be a pretty golden brown color, maybe a little bit lighter than this, but this is fine. And you're just going to basically let it cool. When it does, you'll break it into chunks, stick it in a bowl, mix in your dried fruit, and you're done. It's best stored if refrigerated. Other than that, as well as putting it with yogurt, which is what I really like to do, you can always put it on top of an apple in the morning, bake it in the oven for about 30 minutes, and have your very own apple crisp with very little effort. Maybe add some butter to that. Otherwise, you should be good. And that's all that I have for you today, so I hope you guys enjoy your granola, and let me know if you do decide to make it, because I'm really intrigued about how this turns out for everybody else. So I will see you next week. Bye!